Yo, what's up, guys? We back at it. It's your boy, Stylist of the Dots, man. This show is the faces behind the famous. Today, I definitely got a special guest with me. We got Chloe Mango on that side, everybody. Make some noise for her. Yes. Our own audience. The budget is low. We don't got no production money, but we got to do it ourselves. Chloe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am obsessed with pasta. I'm Chloe Mango. I live in New York, but I travel the world. The world is my home. I work in fashion. I'm also starting to work in the tech field. So, yeah.
Definitely, I know you're somebody that has dealt with so many famous people. Like you doing all these different kind of facets of work has your upbringing, background, and the reasons why you jumped into some entertainment field?
Well, I'm originally from Boca Raton, so those that know Boca know it's a very luxurious place. So I've always been surrounded by luxury, and it's something that I value. So whenever I'd work with my clients, I would want them to be able to obtain luxury. It just so happened that I started working in entertainment. I started actually working in film. Yeah, so fun fact, I'm in the Conjuring 3 for 25 seconds. But yeah, I started working in the film industry in Georgia. Then here in New York, would do music video work, and then also some commercial work, some short film work. So that's really what I was doing at first. However, I was changing titles because I did not know exactly what I should be doing, because I enjoyed being both on and off the camera.
Right.
And until one of my producer friends said, "Hey, I know you like fashion. Why don't you assist style this one short film coming up?" And I was so ecstatic. I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. I'm down." And it was a great time. And I was like, "This is what I want to do."
Got it.
So that's really what got me into styling. I was already doing my own personal designing and stuff like that beforehand, but it wasn't until that. And because I was already working specifically in music videos, I was already in the faces of these artists.
Yeah.
And so I got a mentor who worked with celebrities, and that's really why I started working in entertainment.
And this is all throughout the span of what age, from when to when?
From 22 or 21 until now.
So now, wow. So it's very short but very quick.
Yeah, I mean that's New York scene. I know New York is a very volatile place that can really boost you, and the opportunities here are endless.
Yeah.
The people who you can meet can change your life. So it just takes that one person.
What makes it so different from maybe LA, or maybe the scene in Atlanta and the scene in Tokyo? What is the difference in those big markets?
Yeah, so I mean, it really is the people. New Yorkers are much more open and much more willing to help, and to also collaborate. There's a huge collaboration scene. People are just down to create, to collaborate. I feel the difference within LA, for instance, is people are a lot more superficial. Let's be honest. LA is known to be superficial.
Right.
People are "Oh, what can you do for me?" Versus here, it's okay, you may not have a lot of followers, but if you have talent, I'm down to work with you. That's how New York is, And so versus somewhere like Tokyo, it's just there, working wise, the scene is a lot more niche.
Right.
And so it's just harder to find these people.
Right.
Somewhere in Paris. Paris is a very hard environment because it's a lot more closed off.
Okay.
So they're very peculiar in who they let into their industry there. So New York it's a much more open space and a much more collaborative space, and that's why the opportunities are pretty endless. There's a lot of people who think New York isn't for them. It's a very aggressive city. It's dirty. It's loud. Like, it's really not for everyone. The hustle and bustle is what I personally love.
In terms of PR or in terms of styling, like, who have you worked on for, or artists that you've worked with? Can you walk us through some of those people?
Yeah. So with styling, one of the first people that I worked with, which was great, was Princess Nokia.
Oh.
And her creative director, I worked with them on the Kid Super Paris short film. And because they're in that film, yeah. And so Robot, which was her creative director, he reached out to me on Instagram, and he said, like, would you like to come on this project and work with myself and Nokia? And I was like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
yeah. And I just remember like going to do fittings, and Nokia was practicing like dancing with her dancers. And so like we opened the door and she was like, Mango, and I was like, you remember me?
Yeah. Oh, so you knew her from like prior?
Yeah. I worked on the film with her.
Oh, the film. Okay,
yes.
okay,
And then
okay,
so this was for a music video.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
No effort. And so, and I was just absolutely enthralled that like she just remembered me, because this was one of the first celebrities that I've worked with. Like I ever worked with. Yeah. Well, I mean, like in a more intimate setting, because when I worked in film, I was like doing like BCS photography or like.
You were really like, you were like really both sides.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So like, I mean, like I've done like the background extra work, and then I've also done the arts, like art direction, like being part of the art team, you know. I've directed 2 music videos before, but not for like big artists, you know. But yeah, so
still add it on the resume, like
yeah. So, but I had so many different hands besides being super hands-on with actual talent. Being able to work with Nokia, that was like absolutely bliss, and for her to like remember me. And so that was like one of the best experiences that I've had. Also, who else? I worked with Brett Gray, who is an actor, and when I first met him, like he's also a Leo, so like we just vibed off that.
Right.
And I was a theater kid in high school, so we were just able to click. He's a Beyonce fan.
Who is it? Like, hey man, if y'all want to have a conversation starter, just go right to Beyonce.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a screensaver can be a great conversational starter.
Yes, you just gave me a trick just now.
Brett too was a great talent to work with. So that's what I really appreciate, is working with great talent, just great people.
Yeah.
Like great people. Yeah.
For somebody, let's say somebody that probably has worked on something big before and doesn't necessarily know how to capitalize on it after, like what would you say is the best way to capitalize more work versus like, oh, this is just the one thing I did and that's that? I
mean, establishing a connection with them is the most important thing. I've worked with a lot of men in general, like a lot of rappers, and which I'm kind of reverting from, because it was more so I was in that scene already, and it was just there. So I kept working with them, but it didn't really resonate with my core, who I was, what my aesthetic is. And so I feel like being able to really resonate with who you want to work with, establishing a connection, they're a person after all. And if they want you to, you know, style them, that's great, or styling or makeup or whatever, you know, that's the most important thing, is utilizing connections. And if you don't get to work with them again, that's fine. It happens. It just means that you guys weren't meant to be.
Right.
But you can also follow up with them within like 6 months, like, you know, be like, hey, just wondering if, you know, like how you're doing. Well, first ask, because they're a person, be personable. Ask how they're doing. You know, if they're able to and in the same city, ask if they can meet for a coffee or lunch or dinner, you know. And then try to seal the deal. So
with pivoting, and I actually want to come back on that as well too, when you say try to seal the deal. With pivoting, did that confuse people at all, or like did anybody say, well, girl, you were here today, you're over there tomorrow? Like, did people ever feel like maybe they don't know who you are, like maybe you're like, did that affect you in any way in your career?
Well, so I'm all over the map.
Yeah.
I've had many titles, I've done many things in my life. And so it definitely was confusing at first, especially when I was mainly a photographer, and I was mainly doing photography and designing when I was younger, and then that's when I decided to pivot towards just styling, and so during even like a year, that first year, a lot of people were like, oh, Chloe, yeah, she's a dope photographer, or she's a dope designer. And I was like, actually, no, I'm doing styling now, you know. But I also worked in PR, and you asked me how I was working at Purple, and I was like, oh, I don't work at Purple anymore.
Right.
So it's just like, what can help with that is just posting and making sure, like, not everyone's going to see your Instagram, especially with how the algorithm is nowadays. It's just correction, honestly, is the best way. Be like, no, I do this now. This is what I do.
So, algorithm and everything, and then you said how you were reached out. What did you do anything different for your own visibility on social media to have somebody reach out to you like that? Or would you say, I don't like using the word luck, but like you were blessed to just have somebody reach out to you, or maybe mutual friends? Like, what would you say like that worked for you to end up getting that?
That's supposed to be the best way. It's just like making content, making reels.
Right.
But sometimes it's as simple as like sometimes when I work with models or photographers, they tag me in their like story, you know, something as simple as a story, and then their friends see, especially if they have like such a big audience, like 100K plus, you know, people are seeing that, and people are following these models or photographers because they're interested in the fashion space.
Right.
And so it's an easier conversion for them to be like, okay, let me click her name. Oh, she's a stylist. Well, I'm a model or I'm a photographer, and I would want to work with her because she worked with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So that's like the best way, honestly, is working with other people as credibility. Also, just like I put my work on my page, but obviously myself too, because like I love myself, you know.
You got it.
But I put my work on my page, so anyone who just so happens to see my page, they can scroll and see my work and be like, oh, okay, like she's worked with so and so, she's done this, she's done that. Maybe I want to work with her. So having your work visible on your page is also important.
When you spoke about like sealing the deal, I don't know if you work with any like agencies or anything like that, or like have any management or anything with you with that. Have you ever ran into anything like that where, oh, you can't work with a certain client because it was under this agency you're probably working for, or agency that you're probably managed by? As
a stylist, they usually want you to have a good client base and proper experience before warping you in.
Right.
So basically they want you to do all the work, and then they'll be like, okay, now we'll give you our resources. And so for me, it's just not feasible in my current space where I am at. I don't want to give you a portion of the pie so you can give me more resources when I've put in so much of the groundwork. And so, yes, so that's my thing with agencies. In terms of not being able to work with someone because of an agency, I haven't really gotten into that problem.
Okay, cool. How do you deal with like rejections or like no's from like maybe artists or like famous models and actors that might be like, you say, oh, let's meet up for coffee, or they just give you the runaround like, okay, yeah, we'll do it, and then it just never happens. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, rejection sucks in every type of way, you know. For instance, I met this one footballer, this NFL guy.
NFL guy.
And
just casually NFL guy.
And we had a mutual, so we met at an event, and I was like, oh, like, that's cool, you do NFL, would you be interested in it? Listen, I don't know anything about football, okay? Only the Super Bowl, but I was just like, well, like, if you need a stylist, I'm your girl. And he was like, yeah, of course. And so we exchanged contact.
Right.
About me is I'm very relentless. When I say I want to work, I want to work.
Right.
Right? And so, you know, that was during... I don't even remember what time it was. But then a couple weeks later, I hit him back up when he was back in his hometown. And I was like, hey, so, you know, I just wanted to hop on a call with you, see if you'd be interested in styling, you know, and asked him my styling questions, you know, like more so what he likes, just more so about him, stuff like that. And so afterwards I sent him a styling deck, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna send you shoes as well from Nike, because like that's me showing my value, and like a PR friend hit me up about that. So I sent him some Nike shoes, right? So my mistake, I guess. I'm also I love what I do. I'm too nice. But, you know, I texted him. I was like, hey, sent you the styling deck. Let me know what you think. Called him again. He didn't answer. Kept texting and calling. He was just dubbing me. And then, like, a couple weeks later, I see that he like got the shoes, and he was just like, thanks Nike for the shoes. And I was just like, Nike? First of all, I was the one who got you those shoes.
Right.
So, and then I texted him before he posted that about the shoes. And then afterwards that he posted that, he was like, yeah, I got them. And like that was the only contact really that I got from him. And so, and it was like getting closer to the football season, and I kept calling, and it was just like, listen, obviously I don't need to work with a client who's like this. Yeah. So I stopped. Right. But how I dealt with rejection, I didn't take it personally. Well, I took it personally, but I didn't. I took it personally, but I didn't act like I took it personally, because it's business after all. Yeah. So, you know, it is what it is. Even if he decided to go with another stylist, it's business. It's whatever. It's just not a nice feeling. Yeah. But you just have to move on.
How do you deal with like protecting yourself, or how should people like deal with protecting themselves in a scenario like that? Especially trying to prove yourself really to start up. I didn't need to give you this plug, but I gave you this plug.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, as a stylist, you can get. Can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. As a stylist, you can get easily fucked over.
Right.
Like, I'm still waiting on a payment for a shoot I did in July. Wow. And it's October. It's almost November.
Wow.
So, there's not much protection in place for us, especially in freelance.
Right.
You constantly have to hound people for money, hound people for clothes. It's a very stressful job.
Yeah.
People don't think it is, because people think, oh, you just like put clothes on people.
Right.
How do you think we get the clothes, first of all? How do you think we physically get the clothes? Because like it has to go from A to B. And then returns are a thing. The great thing about a model is all you have to do is show up and then leave. Your work is on set.
Right.
As a stylist, your work starts as soon as you get the job offer.
Wow.
And it doesn't end until you have returned all the clothes, you have returned everything that you needed, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Right.
It's a lot of, honestly, public relations in itself.
Yeah.
Because in order to be able to get these clothes, I need to have connections that will streamline my process of being able to get these clothes.
Credibility, right? You see how you had to kind of like hound like somebody to kind of like be. How do you now go about saying like I'm credible for like, because you know you're not necessarily like one of these like 1,000 million follower people yet, but you have the work under you and you have like, you know, the credibility. How do you get to, I guess, maybe prove to them that you have that credibility? What is like something you say or do that's totally...
I mean, the whole thing about followers is they can really be meaningless. They're only a social currency, but nothing to do with work credibility. In order to kind of prove that, you just have to prove it in your actual work.
Okay.
Credibility, it's like, this is what I do, and if you don't believe that I'm credible, then you obviously are not right for me.
Right.
So, because you don't want to
about...
shake your ass. You don't want to shake your ass too much, you know? Yeah.
What about like for credibility for like a big set? Let's say you're working for Hulu or you're working for like a bigger company. How do you tell them? You know, I mean, I guess your resume would show, but then so many other people also have resumes too. What would make you stand out to like a company like that? Or
honestly, what would make you stand out is nothing. If you know a person who works at Hulu and they're your good friend and be like, hey, person who works at Hulu, I want to do this. And they're like, hey, great friend. Okay. That's how this fucking industry works.
Literally.
That's how this industry works.
Literally that works.
A lot of people fuck their way up to the top, and or they get their friends to the top with them.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you make your resume stand out? Just be friends with them. That's like the best, and that's why networking is so important. I would not be where I am today had I not had that one person to change my life and get me into this industry that is very hard to come in without any experience whatsoever.
What is it socially you have to have as a person to come and work with somebody who is a star, who is like maybe has a big head or you know, stuff like I can't even phrase the question right.
I'm getting it. The first thing I would say is be actually interested in people. Okay. Be a genuine person who likes to interact with people. Right. The second thing is have a lot of patience. You're gonna have to have a lot of patience working with these people, and you're gonna have to bite your tongue a lot of times. They'll say dumb stuff, they'll do dumb stuff, and you just have to bite your tongue. Why I think it's so important to be a people person is that it will be a much more pleasurable experience for you and for them if you're genuinely interested in them as a human. Okay. And they will see that, and they will see your authenticity, because people aren't stupid, you know? So if they see that you're just like superficial and you're only interested in working with them on a very material sense, they won't want to work with you. And so you need that genuine connection a lot of times, but even you don't always have to have a connection with someone to work with them. What just helps is just being able to talk to them like a normal person that they are.
Before I want to start being a stylist today, or when am I going to start seeing the money? Like when am I going to start seeing the return of my investment into any of this?
Stylists start out doing a lot of free work, a stupid amount of free work. In the fashion industry, you are expected to do a lot of free work. And like I said about hounding for your money, there are people who still owe me money from like 2 years ago. It happens. I worked for HBO once, and it took them 4 months to finally give me my money. So it's like, and that's the thing, is that stylists also don't get that much respect because people don't understand how much work we actually do. They just think we throw on clothes on people, like a whole look, and be like, wear this. When it's so much more. Real styling is knowing your body, is knowing the client's body type, is knowing color theory, is knowing what a lapel is knowing the fact that, okay, my client has a shorter frame, and so wearing a turtleneck won't make them look good because it'll make them appear shorter and more, stalked. So that's real styling that people don't understand. And there is a lot of air quote stylists out there who just put a full look from Diesel and call that styling when that's not. You're literally just pulling the look from the mannequin and putting it on a person. But that's what people think styling is, and so that's why there's not much respect for us. When in turn, you know how much work we do. So there is a lot of people who will dilly-dally, sending us the money, and like it's rough, it's hard. There's sometimes, even if you worked in the industry for 10 years, you still get cheaped out. But starting out, you do, like, it's rare that you'll get paid.
How much homework do you have to do to become a stylist? So, like, I know there's some people that go to school. But for the people that say, like, they can't afford that 5T or they can't afford that.
Honestly, like, your best friend is honestly YouTube and your own curiosity. The most important thing is understand designer work. Knowing how certain brands are, certain designers are, their aesthetics, their silhouettes, their tailoring, understand what clothes really mean is super important. One of my favorite designers of all time, and most people's favorite designers, was Alexander McQueen. And he really brought me into my love of fashion. And he was able to transport many people with his work. Being able to see being transported is important. However, there are different facets of styling. There's commercial work for, like, Gap. I don't know. Or, I mean, Gap is reimagining themselves. So someone like TJ Maxx, for instance, like if you're doing a TJ Maxx or a Target commercial, you don't need to know Alexander McQueen or, Alaya or, Terry Mugler. Like, you don't need to know these designers.
That's more niche down too. Like,
I mean, it's not even it's more niche down. It's just more so that, like, you're literally just putting, like, a t-shirt and jeans on someone, and you're getting paid a lot of money to do that. So if you want to do more fantastical things, you're gonna have to do some of your own research on knowing certain designers, and then also studying up on color theory. Color theory is pretty important because not only within the colors of clothes, but the colors of your hues, of people's hues. Understanding that I'm warm tone, and so warmer colors work really well on me. Red is my color, and that's why, like, I look great in red, but if I were to wear something like, I don't know, like purple, it just will not mesh as well. Also, just like understanding body types is super important. Research body types. Because, you can put someone who has very broad shoulders in a strappy piece, and a woman who has broad shoulders in a strappy piece, and now they look a lot masculine. And that doesn't always look sexy or whatever. If the look you're going for is a more boyish look, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to go for a feminine, sexy silhouette, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
At the same time, these are just general guidelines, and sometimes you can break the rules.
Okay.
So, but you can only know to break the rules once you know the rules.
I am an upcoming stylist, but I want to get, or maybe let's say I have like a good amount of years in the styling game, but I want to get invited to Alexander Wang, Bottega, fashion shows during New York Fashion Week or even Paris Fashion Week. How is that going to happen for me? I know it's all networking, but also like, how can I get on somebody's list? Who should I email? What job are you looking for?
Connections. So if you don't have as solid connections, you do have to have more solid experience.
Okay.
So that being magazine work, that being working with celebrities, but in general, if you have this solid work, you have a solid connection with PRs. Usually if you're doing more so editorial work for magazines, you are more so on the editorial side, so you won't be really connected with like the VIP or event team. And if that is the case, or if it's the case that let's say you do a lot of work in Paris and you want to come to New York Fashion Week, you just have to email them and be like, hey, I'm a really dope stylist, invite me to your show now, thanks.
That's funny.
But yeah, you just like do a simple short. A lot of people think they have to like send like a whole book report, whole resume. Like, you have to imagine how many emails PRs get during Fashion Week.
Yeah.
They don't have time to read a whole page. Put it in a 3 to 5 sentence highlight.
Right.
Bold the really important words, the key words, make it easy and readable, and be like, hi, I'm a super dope stylist. I've worked for this, and this. Here's my Instagram. Invite me, please. Thank you.
You got it.
Because the aesthetic does matter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of influencer friends I know who have a certain aesthetic. They will never get to certain shows because of that aesthetic.
Yeah.
Me myself, I am not allowed to be, or I'm not invited to everything because I just don't work with that certain aesthetic. So if you want to go to shows like Alexander Wang, be an Alexander Wang.
Got it.
If you want to be a Alexander Wang.
Yeah.
If you want to get into, Chanel, be Chanel.
2 cities for fashion you feel? Number 1, number 2.
Paris, because really the fashion there is a lot more refined, and New York just because of how unapologetically people can be about themselves.
Yeah. Do you have a dream client or dream company you want to work
Beyonce.
for? Yeah. All right, I don't know why I asked that question. A24 hits you up and they want you to do a movie, but it's like a horror movie, or it's like a all at once, everywhere, everything kind of movie thing. Are you able to get in that bag, or how?
Yeah, of course. First of all, that would be so much fun, and I feel like A24, I'd be able to really experiment. It'd just be a lot of fun. A lot of it is more so on the realistic side, but there's some fantasy that you can play with it that I would love to like push the boundary on.
Yes, but Chloe, thank you so much. Tell the people where they can find you, what you're working on later on, or what you want to promote. Let us know.
Find me on Instagram at ChloeMango_. Find me on TikTok at RainChlo. I'm also currently working on my own health, wellness, and beauty tech app, so stay tuned for that because I'm also into the tech sphere. And just send me money because I deserve it. Thank you.
Oh man, any words of advice you have for anybody before we wrap?
Words of advice? I'd say if you're looking to work in fashion, make sure you love it.
and make sure you financially can.
Thank you so much. I hope y'all thank her for her time here with us, guys, and all of her great words that she blessed you with today, like shaking your ass.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap, man. Thank you for watching.